Hi, my friends. So it's Thursday. Um, would you keep one of our subscribers in prayer? Thomas has two really bad ear infections he can't hear out of his ears hardly at all. And so if you could please keep him in prayer and send healing angels to his bedside, that would be great. Um, keep my brother in prayer. He's supposed to have surgery on his right leg. I haven't heard from him in a few days, so keeping him in prayer. And also my friend Bill, he was in a terrible motorcycle accident, broke his clavicle, his leg, his whole left side's all smashed up. So you could pray for healing for him, Bill. He's also deaf, and so if you could please send healing his way. And uh, yeah, that's all I can think of right now. Well, oh, my Aunt Elizabeth is still recovering from her stroke, so if you would keep her in prayer. And if you need a prayer request, please let me know, and I will put you on my prayer list and till you get better, and then some. So, okay, we finished on page 220 of the Swedenborg. I'm just going to start at the top because I don't know where I finished exactly, and I kind of like to just work our way into it. Um, so, let's see, let me just, sorry about this. Yeah, if you are looking for a reward for doing good things or for doing goodwill towards people, then your heart's not in the right place. Okay, just don't look for anything in return. Just make them happy. You look at them and you say, well, how can I make this person happier than they are right now? That should be the goal. Leave them laughing, as they say, right? It's always a good thing. Um, as soon as they are unsatisfied with the quality of food they're given or do not get paid whatever they ask, they reject the babies, treat them roughly, beat them, and laugh at their crying. So, people are not in it for the reasons that they should be, caring and that sort of thing. All right, so um, it's the same thing with government officials who focus only on status. They're in it for the love of themselves and nobody else, nothing else. I gotta share this with you. They're not, those sticky things, those 3M things that you put on your pictures to hold up against the wall? They don't work. I mean, they work for a while, but then last night, one of my pictures just boom, crashed down. And I was like, really startled, looking, and I thought, oh my God, no, I really love this picture. And it's not damaged, thank God. It fell on something and then it hit the floor. So those things don't work. I would not recommend them, okay? Anyway, my 2 cents worth. All right, so same sort of attitude applies to any line of work. If you're not in it for the right reason, then get out. Don't stay in it. In the work that I do, there's sometimes when I feel burnt out. I have to take a break because I don't want to be in the position where I'm not giving my best for that person, and sometimes you need to do that, and then you switch it up and do something else that maybe the Lord wants you to be doing, or maybe you've been procrastinating about, or and so you need to get off the pot, so to speak, and do something else, or come back to it later. Take a break, take a vacation. I just was reading recently that people over the age of 45 should not work more than 3 days a week. Like, yeah, I'm all for that, but how do I make a living, right? So, especially in California, it's way too expensive here. Don't come to California. It's too expensive, okay, to live here and raise a family. Just don't do it. All those illegal aliens, I would go to other states. Don't stay in California, okay? It's too expensive. So, once it's discovered that they have no love for God or their neighbor, these people, okay, that we've been talking about, they're sent to teachers once they die, okay, who instruct them about faith and goodwill. And if they reject what they're taught, then they're exiled to be with people like themselves. So they're the ones that pick it, okay? They're the ones that pick their kind of hell state, if you will. And some who are enraged at God because they have not been given their rewards. They call faith a figment of the imagination, okay? So they still can't accept it. Here they are dead, and they still can't accept it, I'm not quite sure how that works, but that's what Swedenborg experienced, okay? So these are the people who are meant in the word by hired workers, who are given extremely menial jobs in the entrances to the temple. From a distance in the spiritual world, these people look as if they're splitting logs. It's extremely important to realize that goodwill is closely linked to the faith in the Lord. The quality of the faith determines the quality of the goodwill. For the point that the Lord, goodwill and faith form a unity. In the same way, our life, our will, and our intellect form a unity, and that if we separate them, each one crumbles like a pearl that's crushed to powder. So, goodwill and faith come together in good actions. Okay, so if we believe that everything good that we do, as if we are doing it of our own, actually comes from the Lord, then we are instrumental. We're the instrumental cause of that good, and the Lord is its principal cause. These two causes seem to us to be one thing, but in fact, the principal cause affects every aspect of the instrumental cause. It follows that if we believe that everything truly comes from the Lord, we do not take credit for what we do. The more developed this faith becomes in us, the more the Lord takes away our fantasies about getting credit for what we've done. In this state, we can practice goodwill abundantly, without a fear of taking credit. Eventually, we sense the spiritual pleasure in goodwill. Then we become adverse to taking credit because doing so is damaging to our life. So it's easy for the Lord to erase people's idea that they deserve credit, provided that those people obtain goodwill primarily through working justly and faithfully in the position, business, or line of work they are in, and with people with whom they interact. If, however, people believe that they attain goodwill through making charitable donations and helping the needy, it's difficult to rid them of that idea, and so forth. Okay, so now, a life of goodwill is a moral life that is also spiritual. We learn from our parents and teachers to live a moral life, behave like a civil human being. Okay, we learn to discharge the duties of an honorable life, which are related to the various virtues that constitute the essence of being honorable. We also learn to discharge these dutiful acts through the outward forms called manners. As we advance in age, we learn to add an exercise of rationality, that we use that rationality to enhance the morality of our life. The moral life in youth up to early childhood is earthly, and after that it becomes increasingly rational. People who reflect on the question can see that a moral life is the same thing as a life of goodwill, which is behaving well to our neighbor and regulating our life to keep it from being contaminated with evils. Nevertheless, in the first phase of our life, our moral life is a life of goodwill on the outermost level, but it is only in the outward, most superficial part of our life, but not deeper within it. There are 4 phases to our lives. We pass through them as we go from infancy to old age. The first phase is when our behavior follows other people's instructions. So you're doing whatever mommy and daddy tell you to do. Otherwise, time out. The second is our behavior in our own, and our intellect restrains us. The third is when our will pushes our intellect and our intellect restrains our will. The fourth is when our behavior is deliberate and purposeful. These phases of our life are phases of the life of our spirit. However, they do not necessarily relate to our body. Our body can behave morally and speak rationally, yet our spirit can intend and think things that are the opposite of morality and rationality. It's clear from pretenders, flatterers, liars, hypocrites that this is the nature of our earthly self. Clearly, people like this have a dual mind, and their mind can be divided into two parts that do not agree. It is different for people who have benevolent intentions and think rational thoughts. As a result, do good things and speak rationally. These are the type of people meant by the simple in spirit in the word. They are called simple because they're not dual. These statements clarify the proper meaning of the outer self and the inner self. They show that we cannot conclude from other people's morality in their outer self that they have morality in their inner self. The inner self could be turned into the opposite direction. It could be hiding the way a turtle hides its head or in the shell, or how a snake hides its head in its coils. Okay, it seems like I've already read this to you guys. Yeah, I think I did. Okay. All right, so just take the 6 commandments of the second tablet of the 10 commandments for an illustration. It's clear that to everyone that they are principles for a moral life, as they contain all aspects of loving our neighbor. The following statement in Paul makes it clear that goodwill fulfills all the commandments. Love each other, for those who love others have fulfilled the law. The commandments that you are not to commit adultery, you are not to kill, you are not to steal, you are not to bear false witness, you are not to covet, anything else that has been commanded, are included in the following sayings. You are to love your neighbor as yourself. Goodwill does not do evil to its neighbor. Goodwill is the fulfillment of the law. Romans 13:8, 9, and 10. People who think only with their outer selves cannot help being astounded by the 7 commandments on the second tablet were proclaimed by Jehovah on Mount Sinai in such a miraculous way, given that these same rules were legal principles of civic justice in all countries on the earth, including Egypt, where the children of Israel had just come from. No country can survive without these rules. The reason why Jehovah proclaimed them, however, and wrote them with his own finger on the tablet of stone was that they are rules not only for all civic communities and therefore rules of moral earthly life, but they're also rules for heaven communities and therefore rules for moral spiritual life. Acting against these rules then is acting not only against other people but also against God. If we could see what a moral life is in its essence, we would see that it is a life in accordance with human laws and divine laws at the same time. Therefore, people who live by both sets of laws as one law are truly moral and live a life of goodwill. Anyone who wants to grasp the nature of goodwill is capable of doing so by looking at the nature of outward moral life. Just copy the outward moral life you have in civic interaction and into your inner self, so that your inner willing and thinking parallel the actions of your outer self, and you will see a model of goodwill. Now, Secrets of Heaven is the next sample book, and I'll get going with that tomorrow morning. It was published there's about 8 volumes from 1749 to 1756 in Swedenborg's magnum opus, written in the beginning of his revelatory period. So get on that tomorrow. I hope you have a blessed day. It's a little rainy and cloudy here. Hope yours is a little bit more sunny. Bye.